Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics. This week, there's really only one fucked up topic. Really fucked up topic. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB has the beer going. Oh, my goodness.
I have a beer, and I've had some of it already. My lipstick is on it. Oh.
Wow. What kind of beer do you like?
Okay, so this is a blueberry beer, which is all over upstate, the whole of upstate New York. I love it. I like a light, fruity beer. So does my husband. We are the same that way. I also like a Stella, and I love a Guinness. Love a Guinness. I don't like a Pilsner.
I don't like the Pilsner.
I don't like
a Pilsner
IPA.
in Prague, though?
I would do that. Yeah. What do you have?
I'm having a Manhattan because I didn't have one last week, I realized.
Oh, that's right.
I was missing out on it. I feel like we have to bring it back. I was in Manhattan today, which we're going to talk about.
Yes, you were.
I have to have a Manhattan, to talk about Manhattans. But I know you're at an undisclosed location. And,
I'm just traveling. I'm traveling, and it's like I don't have great reception. I had to revert to my phone. It's like a whole thing. But I think I'm okay. And I might run out of battery. I don't know. But if you lose me, you lose me. I'll let you know how it's going here on this end. And I'm excited about our guests, and it's going to be an interesting night.
It's going to be an interesting night for sure.
And there's a lot of news happening, and I just want to say off the top that we even talked about, even right before the show, and we talked even earlier today about how much news is happening, and yet we still do need to address the big thing that's swamping all the other news. Not that all the other news isn't really, really important. And so some of it I know we'll come back to, like the travel ban. That's all this horror going on. But I give the floor to you.
They're bringing back Kilmar Garcia Abreu. They're bringing him back, and then they're going to indict him.
Right. And he's facing real federal charges.
Right. And the head U.S. attorney there immediately resigned when this happened.
Immediately resigned. And so, but it's all like, we're going to show you that we were right, Yeah. It's that horrible, demented bravado, right? Which is so terrible. And then the head of the largest labor union in California was arrested right before we came on air.
Why didn't you see that?
In Los Angeles. It's just a lot. There's a lot happening around all of that and other things.
Lots of other things. But, they are charging him with trafficking. So I think that's a good lead into our first topic, which is how we're going to. Oh, my gosh. How we want to, because I've talked about this already. I want to hear what you have to say about the Trump-Musk rift, and specifically the tweet that Elmo put out about the Epstein files. So I'm going to have to do the timer. I don't even know what my noise is on my timer. So
we're going to learn. We're going to find out together.
Hopefully it won't be too horrible.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have finished my beer.
Okay.
So first I want to just because I feel like everybody's weighing in on this. I've watched, and of course they are. There's, threads that are hysterical about, the best replies that people are posting about the whole thing. There is an element to it that is such deranged theater, and it's great to see two villains eating each other's faces off, and we're like, yes, take each other out. These are the things that we've all hoped for. But I want to kind of like pull back just a second, because the commentary on everything that's coming from legacy media or off the cuff pundits are the Epstein file portion of the fight, where Musk says, here's the truth, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, da, 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 da. And have a good day, right? Like, I'm trolling you now. So there's just that tweet. There's the reaction to it in legacy media is simply, for all I've heard, is simply for folks, if they're going to say, yes, he said this, and they qualify it as like unsubstantiated allegation, and then they move on to all the other stuff. So I just want to hold the phone and first say, okay, let's review what the Epstein files means to MAGA, what that phrase means to MAGA, and what the accusation of pedophilia, which is their favorite slur, right, has become a favored slur inside of MAGA. Thanks to Elon Musk, in part. He did a very big thing years ago that, unrelated to QAnon, unrelated to Epstein, that sort of set the stage for allowing that slur, which is so, allowing that accusation to become just a slur that you fling about when you're talking about one of the worst crimes. And there are so many millions of victims of this that are still children or adults now. And they're just, you know, their experience or what they live through is, you know, whatever. We like throwing this, you know, dagger at our political enemies, at our whatever. That's what MAGA does. Okay? I'm speaking in their tone right now, not to say this is something I would do. So the Epstein files, what that means to MAGA is very specific. It's not like there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents and different kinds of documents, all involved in the case that the state brought against, I don't think it was the federal government, the Florida brought, and maybe the feds, against Jeffrey Epstein initially. And in that initial case that was brought and that investigation into him, there was a roundup of materials and a lot of stuff that was put into the public record in disclosure. His little black book, reporting of video, because he had surveillance. We know this from the victims. We know it because it went on the record. And there's indication, even though a lot of it was redacted, that there was video recovered. Then later, when he was charged again, when it was Donald Trump's presidency, and he was charged right before he went to prison and then was killed or killed himself or whatever happened, he died, he perished. There was another roundup of materials for that investigation that came out of his Manhattan townhome. You know, remember we had the Saudi passports and we had all of this stuff. So there's a tremendous amount of evidence that investigators gathered against Jeffrey Epstein that's sitting at the Department of Justice under the thumb of Pam Bondi now. And but that's not what MAGA's talking about when they say the Epstein files. And I put quotes because it's a very specific phrase. What that very specific phrase means to MAGA, who coming out of QAnon, that it all got weaponized, is specifically the names of the men that were black, that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing by trafficking these adolescent girls. And there may have been boys, we don't know. We just know about the adolescent girls, to these rich and powerful men where there's supposedly some type of evidence against them, either testimony from the victims or the survivors, or video evidence or some kind of record, as well as Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, which a lot of people look at. Now, some of this stuff has been in the public record for a very long time. Tremendous amounts were redacted. And so the Epstein files are really just about, give us the proof that Bill Clinton was on the plane with a girl, like abused a girl. Give us the proof that Richardson, like any powerful Democrat, because Jeffrey Epstein at that time that he was doing all of this, the Democrats were the administration. That party was in control. And there were a lot of local politicians and a lot of people around him and a lot of people in finance and in business around him that have been named. Some of them have been named by the survivors, who are now the biggest one being dead. But we do know that, you know, a ton of it does surround Donald Trump. And MAGA could never wrap their heads around all that. And so one of the narratives, and I know you spoke about this with Gal, is that, well, yes, there's all these pictures of him. Yes, they were best friends. Yes, he partied with him. Yes, we have video of him partying with him and luring and laughing. And Donald making Jeffrey laugh at something lurid that he was saying. We've got all of that. Yes, all of his numbers are in the little black book with all the little codes next to all the different numbers. Yes, we know that, in the stuff that I unearthed, that there's financial links between these guys also that goes back to the 80s, right? They were entwined. We have Donald himself on Howard Stern saying he's a very good friend of mine. He likes girls a little young. There's just oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles, more than any other single individual that aside from Ghislaine Maxwell, that Jeffrey Epstein associated with. The next person, there's Jeffrey, Ghislaine, Donald, okay? But all of that gets excused away inside of MAGA, where they really were forced to look at it as, well, he was in there. He was the one that was exposing Jeffrey Epstein. He was in there to help. He was taking people down. And remember that QAnon was all, a big part of that was that Donald was this inside confidential informant, So truths woven and twisted and turned around to sort of say, he's the good guy. These were the bad guys he was taking down. We have him to thank. He's going to free all of the, he's going to stop human trafficking and flee all these people and Okay, so that's what the Epstein files mean to MAGA, and that's what MAGA's conversation is about it to this day when it comes to Donald Trump and why he's in there in the stuff that they can read. And remember, this is like being fluid in a third language, right? They're like fluid in Epstein files. They know all the names, they know all the people, they know all the dates, they know that this is like candy for these people. They have been in on so deep on this. So that's what it means to them. So when Elon is posting that, tweeting that, whatever we call it, when he's sending that out there and he's naming them as the quote unquote best buddy, as the guy that also was pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell at a party, as the man who sort of, if there's anything depraved going on or anything, like, he's in there. He's in there in the lane that the MAGA also doesn't want to deal with or confront, of all of the crossover with American Nazis and actual German Nazis, right? Like, and Elon and the salutes that he does. I'm sorry that I even mimicked that. All of the stuff around all that. So that guy's in there with Donald like that on that. He's tied in there. He has access to information. He's paying for people. God knows what he's doing. He's talking to the Kremlin. He's talking to Putin all the time. For the press to sort of say this is unsubstantiated when there's as more evidence in what is known as the Epstein files of Donald being in there than anybody else that those people have a name for, and we can even have a name for. Anybody can have a name for, because a lot of it is in the public record and a lot of it is unredacted. So that unredacted Epstein file stuff, if there's anyone who would kind of know or be in a position to maybe find that out, it'd be Elon Musk. And he weighed in and he throwed it down there. And no one wants to touch it. And it's cognitive dissonance. And what Elon is getting is the backlash of, so you installed a president that you knew was a predator. What does that say about you? There's both sidesing all around all of it. It's just a mess. The other thing I want everybody to sort of recall is, remember when the team, years ago, I can't even remember the year now, and there was a team of, were they college or high school? I don't know if it was lacrosse, it was someone, people got trapped in a cave. And Elon, in some other country, and Elon was like, I'll get them out with XYZ. And an engineer who actually knew, and a first responder, I think, who knew that what Elon was saying wasn't going to work, and Elon was just trying to jump onto this whole thing, called Elon out for it. That's ridiculous. Just something benign like that. Like, we're going to do this. We don't, thank you. Sit down, please. We've got to rescue. We got real lives on the line here. We're going to rescue this. Stop playing around with it. Well, Elon came back to that man, and we'll talk about the story later, I'm sure, in weeks to come, and said he's a pedophile. And that slur destroyed that man's life. This is a middle-aged professional man doing good work. And his life was destroyed by that slur. And MAGA has a habit of doing this. we can see it, they'll call each other that or call their political enemies that, just left, right, and center. But that very powerful man, who at that time I think was richest man in the world, is at that time or close to it, big name, Tesla, blah, blah, SpaceX, that guy weighing in into a private citizen and putting that, of another country, I think even, and putting that label on him and destroying his life, was what it makes of this moment is it's excused away. If everybody's a pedophile, nobody's a pedophile. And if the guy that goes around just flinging that as a slur just because he's angry at somebody does it, when he's doing it, and there might even be truth to it, right, to the president of the United States, and he's in a position to know, and the press can then excuse it as this is unsubstantiated, but also he has a pattern of this. I don't know. I think everyone should just anticipate that this is beyond theater. It's something that will then make this untouchable for anyone in the future to try to get to the bottom of what exactly was Donald Trump's involvement in the girls that were trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago, one of them now dead, and into Jeffrey Epstein's home and clutches.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to remind everybody of all of that.
Thank you. That was quite the reminder, I would say.
Yeah.
Quite the reminder. When you say if everybody's the pedophile that loses the name, it reminds me, there's a Gilbert and Sullivan song that the chorus is, if everybody's somebody, then no one's anybody. Yeah. That's the whole thing, Yeah. It's the whole thing. Now, I have nothing to add to that because I talked about this excessively. I already talked about it. And if you missed it, Gal was good enough to come on. I tried to do a Substack live thing, and it was actually turned out really well. So Yay! She had good things to say. So check that out. We'll talk about it more later in the show. I'm going to hit the timer here because we don't want to keep our guest waiting.
No, don't want to keep our guest waiting.
Yeah. You mentioned that in the New York apartment where Jeffrey Epstein lived, right? So that's here it is.
This is the New York apartment today.
I took this photo this very day because I was like, I was near where this is, and I had time to kill. I'm like, you know what? I should go see this. But what was interesting to me wasn't the door. We've seen this before. It's a very weird block, I think, because I'm at my back is to Central Park, and I'm looking east down 71st Street. Okay. And on the left, very close in, is his mansion. On the right is the Frick. It's the art. It's a museum. It's a weird block, I think. Okay. I don't know. As a New York person who lived in New York for 10 years, it's not a block I even want to live on, frankly. But I thought that was very strange. Anyway, that's what I have to say about Epstein. But I went to New York at the invitation of the Ukrainian Institute of America, which is a great organization. They have a big old mansion on East 79th, right off the park. Beautiful building that they got from a man who invented some sort of screw thing about jet airplanes, who was Ukrainian and made all this money, and then bought the building and donated it to this organization. So today I was invited down. There's a Ukrainian journalist, and her name is Natalia Gumenyuk, and very, very impressive person. She's been all over the place talking about stuff. And I was there at a table. It's not a closed door thing with a bunch of journalists just talking about what it's like to cover the war in Ukraine now and the frustrations people have with it. What's good about the coverage, what's bad about the coverage, that kind of thing. So I just have a couple of notes I want to share. One, explain it. I explained it. I explained why I was there. Natalia runs this thing called the Reckoning Project. Reckoning as in Day of Reckoning. Okay. And what she does with her group is, when the Russians came, especially in a Kherson, and I felt like in the know because Zarina has written about Kherson extensively, which I've published on Prevail. They took a lot of people prisoner and tortured them and had them in these places and held them for weeks at a time. So after the liberation of Kherson, people were set free, and she sits down with her team and they interview people about their experiences being.
Oh, wow.
And it's, so we watched this like 12-minute video that she made.
Yeah.
Very powerful, and no, there's no propaganda about it. It's very much, this is what happened. And she kept saying, we need this for history so people can learn about it historically, and we need it for litigation down the line. We need to have documentation that this happened, that the Russians did this, and this is what's happening. There is, I think there's something like 170,000 documented war crimes that the Russians have committed. Which is, that seems like a lot. I'm not a war criminal, but that seems like a lot. So, and there's a lot of people that are still being held by the Russians, who are Ukrainian. They're journalists. They're just citizens who were being held. And she told this story where, she goes all over the place talking to people to do her thing. Like I said, really smart, impressive person. And she said that, last year there was a journalist that she knew, that she worked with, who got held. And she was saying, Natalia was saying, she's there. We have to get her out. What can we do to get her out? We got to get her out. And people were kind of be like, yeah, well, giving her the runaround a little bit. And then a year later, she's dead. And then everybody's doing all these tributes to her and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, where were you a year ago when she was still alive and we could have gotten her out? So that's one of the things. Another thing is somebody was frustrated with explaining to Americans why the Ukrainians are fighting, why they're not just like, yeah, whatever, we'll go to the negotiating table, fuck it, and what it is. And Natalia said something that I liked. I wrote it down. She said, war is bearable, occupation is not. And I thought that was a great quote. And especially in light of our recent Andor thing, right? But this is real. They're really occupied. And, not for nothing, we might be there in this country too. We're not out of the woods by any start of, imagination. The summer's coming. This is going to be an intense summer. In Russia, they do not warfare in the winter because it's too cold, but spring, summer is when this stuff happens. Putin knows that the U.S. isn't going to do shit because Trump won't betray him. So he has kind of a green light to do whatever he wants. And two more things, and then I'll be done. When they took over Crimea, initially they were, jailing people who were really out there dissidents and very vocal activists and stuff like that. But eventually it got to be anybody that has an opinion at all has to come with us. Even whatever the opinion is, doesn't even matter. You're not allowed to have an opinion. And that's the sort of thing that we want to avoid here. And I think it's important. My thing is, we need to tie this into what we're dealing with here in the United States, right? This is what's happening in Ukraine. We need to tie it into what's happening in the U.S. and see that it is very similar. And the last piece that she said is, people are saying here now, not her, somebody else said this. People have a tendency in the United States to be because of this great thing that happened last week with the spider web, which is very much the rebels blowing up the Death Star in a lot of ways, right? Oh, but Ukraine's doing great in the war. It's going to be over soon. Everybody's fine. It's fine. I don't have to think about it anymore. And that's not true. The war isn't going to be over soon. It's not going to be over until Putin decides that it's over. And until that happens, it's going to keep happening. And they're not going to surrender. They're not going to give up. It's going to keep happening until Russia stops. And until Russia stops, there's no, however great the thing that happened last week was, which it was fucking incredible, it doesn't change the calculus here. We have to keep being in the moment and understanding that they need our help. And it's not a humanitarian thing, although there's humanitarian aspects to it. The best thing that the United States can do, in my opinion, for national security is help Ukraine. Cost effective. I know they love the word efficiency. It's efficient. And if we take out Putin and this government, that's good, man. It's good for democracy globally. It's not, we don't even have to fight. We don't have to send people there to fight. All we have to do is give them some fucking weapons and spend money on making more weapons to boost U.S. industry. It's a win-win-win. And Trump doesn't want to deal with it. So that's what I got. And I have 18 seconds left. So
I have some. Can I go back to the war crime thing and ask you?
You can go back to whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah. So do the folks you met with today, was there any discussion that there would be some type of accountability for those crimes? Not necessarily, okay, we can never arrest Putin, he's not showing up for war crimes, but what is happening with that? What's happening with some kind of justice or some kind of accountability for the Russian state committing these war crimes? Anything
other than documenting them? There's nothing. We're not anywhere near there. We're not anywhere near that happening. We're so far removed from it.
Okay.
I think nobody talked about that. And when I talked about like, hey, Putin is clearly evil and Trump is clearly doing his bidding, maybe we should link these two things. There's a lot of reasons why it's hard to do that in the media, in the legacy media and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, which are valid, valid. Everybody there was cool. It was good. It was a good time. And, I was grateful to them. Again, it's the Ukrainian Institute of America. And they can go there and look at it. It's cool. They have cool exhibits and stuff. So
yeah, that's my spiel. That's your day to day.
Okay. Are you cool? You're going to hang? You're going to be okay?
I'm going to hang. Let's see. I think I'm running out of steam. I'm going to check while you go to the thing. I'm going to check my power.
Okay. You check your power because I don't know if you knew this, but we have a sponsor.
Fantastic.
It's not really. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
And now a word from our sponsor.
What's up, everybody? This is Joey Tacos. Hey, you own an upscale tequila-ria, Mexican food truck, or Taco Bell franchise? You may be entitled to damages. My law firm, Tacos and Tacos, attorneys at law, has filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of all individuals and all businesses that have the word taco in their name against the parent company of the Financial Times, seeking legal redress for their defamatory association of Donald Trump with the name tacos. Since President Trump's tariff plan has been called Taco Tariff, where taco stands for Trump always chickens out by a reporter at Financial Times, my law firm, and every other entity that has the word taco in it has taken a big hit. Once, taco was a word associated with delicious Mexican food, top shelf tequila, and old El Paso. Now, taco is forever associated with the guy currently ruining the global economy. The only way it could get worse is if we rebranded it as Paul Weiss. This cannot be allowed to stand. We demand damages, lots of them, and fast. So call 1-555-GO-TACOS, GOTACOS, today. That's 1-555-GO-TACOS. Sign on to our class action lawsuit. What we want is what every taco needs. Racha cheddar. And now, back to the show.
Okay. Thank you, Chunk, for and voicing the great Joey Tacos. We haven't heard from Joey Tacos on the show in quite some time, and I think it was time to bring him back on. I wish that I could sign on to the class action lawsuit. I think it's going to work. LB seems to have vanished, which is fine because I know she was having difficulties with stuff. So it's okay because our guest is here. He's going to come on. He is a New Jerseyan like myself, a filmmaker, a co-founder and spokesman for an organization called the Visibility Brigade. Dana Glazer, welcome to the 5-8. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Okay, so before we get started, you've been dutifully watching the show. You didn't sign off and run away in terror. So do you have any thoughts about what we said or anything you want to share about any of this horrible stuff? And if not, that's also fine.
Well, I don't think I have, in terms of my perspective, I think that it's like worldwide wrestling, the whole Epstein thing. And I think that we need to be focused on the major issues, which is this horrendous bill that the GOP is putting forth. That's really what we need to be focusing on right now.
The big, beautiful bill, you mean?
Yeah.
It's big. Yeah. It's beautiful. So, right. Yeah. So tell everybody what the Visibility Brigade is. You have the image behind you. So this is a great thing. And I want everybody, people love stuff like this in our audience. They love stuff that they can get involved with. So tell us what it is that you did, how it came to be. Yeah. Give us the origin story.
Sure. Well, in terms of the origin story of the brigade, I think that a group of us felt very frustrated that there wasn't any, you would go around in normal life and everything would seem fairly normal. This was back in 2020. And we decided to disrupt that. And we thought, well, how can we do this? And one idea was there was an overpass that's close to us. And we looked at it and said, you can see right through it. It's incredibly visible on a daily basis during rush hour traffic. For 90 minutes going in each direction is about 5,000 people each way. So that's 10,000 people during 90 minutes who could see a physical sign. And I think that it's really important that that we as citizens get up out of our chairs, stop looking at screens, and do something. And that's what we're about. That's why I think a lot of people across the country are following suit and creating their own brigades and doing this sort of thing, because we need to do something. The rent for democracy is due, and we're going to get evicted. And the reason why we're getting evicted is because we haven't been paying on a weekly basis. And that's what we try to do with the Visibility Brigade, which is on a weekly basis, we go out there and we share a message of oftentimes of hope, sometimes of rage, sometimes of we just want people to understand what's happening because they're not paying attention. So we're doing a public service, and that's really what we're about.
I love it. So how did it come about? How did the idea come about, and how did you do the first foray into it? Because right off the bat, you're like, is it legal to do that? Are you allowed to put signs up? Like, how did you navigate all of that space? Our side is always worried about the law, Dana. Their side doesn't give a shit. They're like, oh, right. Wow, we're just going to have meme coin and have money from, yeah.
So there's something called First Amendment rights, which as long as we have a constitution, it applies. And the first time that I went out with this group of activists, my wife said to me, please don't get arrested. So, and the reality of...
Wait, did you?
Fortunately, no.
Okay, good. Yeah.
The reality of an overpass, of a pedestrian walkway in the United States, is it's public. And the way that this works in terms of First Amendment rights is if you are on a sidewalk, if you're in a public park, you have rights as a citizen to express yourself. That doesn't mean that you should block somebody's way, that you shouldn't be blocking traffic, shouldn't be blocking the pedestrian walkway, but you have rights to be up there and to be doing that. This is a particularly useful spot for that reason. And so, we go and we occupy it for, 90 minutes at a time. And that's our right to do. And that's how we do it. Now, the police might interpret this differently in different places, depending on where you are. Right. But the bottom line is, federally, we have a constitution that protects us under the First Amendment. And we're exercising those rights. And that's something that we as citizens need to do more and more, is to wake up, get up, and do stuff. And if you don't feel comfortable getting up on an overpass, there are all sorts of other things to do. But let me just talk about the overpass for a second.
Yeah, because it's really cool.
In terms of this model. So we certainly didn't invent this idea. This has been around for a long time. I think what we sort of came upon was a model in which on a weekly basis, we changed the lettering. We have letters, as you can see in the background, that we change so it's dynamic. So people driving past, they're always seeing a different thing. The other thing you can see in the picture is that there are people up there and they're waving. And that's a very personal thing. when you see somebody and they're standing behind a message that they believe in and they're waving at you. It's visceral. And it's not only powerful for the people who are driving by, but it's a very redemptive, powerful thing for the people up on the overpass. And I think that's why this has caught on. So right now we have, what started in Paramus has become a movement across the country. We now have well over 100 groups that are chapter groups of Visibility Brigade, and they're all working independently, but it's all basically the same thing. And the reason why I think this is catching on is there's an activist who recently described this as the new gateway drug to activism, which I think is really funny.
Great quote. Yeah.
But the idea being that when you're up there, it's an incredible feeling. You feel better. Our motto is action is the antidote for despair, and we live by that. And it's a very celebratory experience being up there among other people. Oftentimes people bring music. There's just a lot of chit chat. People are dancing a little bit. It's very community oriented. And I think that so much of our culture tries to separate everybody, put everybody in their own little pockets. And, this is the kind of thing that we need to be doing. And the other part of it is, as opposed to regular protests, where, oftentimes it happens in major cities, but if you're elsewhere, you don't even know about it. What we're doing in terms of overpasses is we're saying, hey, something's happening that's wrong here, and we need you to wake up and pay attention to it. So we're going places where people aren't necessarily paying attention, and we're reminding them that we're in a state of crisis. And I think that that's the value of what we do.
I love it. I think it's, looking at the picture, because I think I'm a cowardly person, Dana, when it comes to physical stuff like this, but looking at that seems fine. I have one thing in my head. I'm just standing on there waving to people. That's not scary, No. And you're right. I'm allowed to have one sign up and stand on an overpass, yeah. So this is a wonderful idea. Now there's two things I want to hit. First of all, action is the antidote to despair is going to be the title for this episode. I wrote it down. I love that. That's really good. You mentioned before we came on the 3.5%. Tell people about the 3.5%, what that means.
Yes. So there's a Harvard researcher named Erica Chenoweth, and she wrote several books on this. Where she went and studied different movements in the 1900s in terms of the fight against authoritarianism. And she had two conclusions that are major. Number one, nonviolence is always more powerful than violent. You have a much better chance at resisting, actively and successfully resisting authoritarianism with nonviolence as opposed to picking up guns. So that's number one. Number two, the more successful countries that overthrow or actually effectively resisted had 3.5% of the population or more actively doing so. That's an important component. So while I'm certainly not a mathematician, I think of this as a numbers game. What we're trying to do is awaken people. There's a lot of people out there who feel as we do, that something is terribly wrong in this country, but a lot of people aren't doing anything about it. And so our job is to awaken and to activate people, to give them different ideas and tools to do something about it. Now, what we have on the overpass is one tool. Not everybody in the world is going to want to go and climb up, go up in an overpass and do this sort of thing, and that's fine. But there are so many other things that you can do, and it's important that people understand that. So that's the kind of thing is that we're not trying to promote ourselves as like this movement that's unto itself. We are here to remind people, to awaken people. And it doesn't matter whether you want to come to the overpass or do something else, but you've got to do something. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The rent is due.
My saying is no one can do everything, but everyone must do something.
That's right.
Which is very similar to if everybody's somebody, then no one's anybody. Because I always rip off Gilbert and Sullivan. It's very but I think this is a really good thing to do. I think people want to do stuff and don't know what to do. I think that's part of the problem. And this, to me, this seems like a what did you say? It's a gateway drug. This is like activism on training wheels, right? It's like it you know, my mom might even do this. Hi, Mom.
Absolutely. We have people who run the gambit from, I mean, there was a 90-year-old woman. You don't see it in the picture here, but there's an elevator, fortunately, and there's a ramp on this. It's a lovely overpass.
Where is that? Is that 3? Where is that? It's
in Paramus, New Jersey. And
what highway is it?
Route 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, Route 4 in Paramus, New Jersey. It's just a lovely, lovely overpass, and it was created by union workers. You know, and what was really interesting is about a month or two ago, a woman came up to join us and said, "You know, I was one of the people who built this." I was like, "Really?" Nice. So actually, there's a little video clip about her talking about how this is a public space. You know, it was designed and made for the public to use, and that's an important thing. And we need to take advantage of these opportunities and to express our voices of dissent.
Yeah, no, it's now you've created at Visibility Brigade again.
I didn't create the Visibility.
No. You are one of a group of people who created. I know you want. You want no credit for this at all.
Let me just say right here that if it was just me, I wouldn't be here talking to you. It requires a small. There's a famous Margaret Mead quote. I don't know if you're acquainted with Margaret Mead, but she's a very famous quote, basically saying, "What in order to change the world, you need a small group of determined people." And that's the kind of the people that have worked with me since we started this 5.5 years ago, and now it's only grown from there. But there's not an individual kind of thing. This is a collective kind of thing. And what we did was we learned from mistakes and trial and error in terms of how to do this in the way that we do it. And after the 2024 election, we created a toolkit, and that is what really took off. Because we wrote into it all the different lessons that we learned to here's how you can do it. Becoming incredibly granular in terms of here's how you build the letters. Here's where you go get the materials, right? It's just as much information as we could pack, and it's a continual work in progress. That if you go to the website, which is visibilitybrigade.com, you'll see right in the front, check out our toolkit. You open it up, and it gives you a plethora of information. Then you can go and create your own brigade on your own overpass. And that's the joy of this, which is there are so many pedestrian overpasses.
Yeah.
So, my daughter and I were driving down the highway, and I had her taking pictures like, wouldn't that be a nice one? That'd be a good one. There are so many spaces for us to do this. And that's the whole vision of this movement is to really encompass that, and to really to extend it out into the country as far as we can. We had an action, by the way, last weekend that spanned 30 states, and it included 60 brigades, and that was really exciting.
Was it? I was going to ask about that. Was that like the same message that you were showing, yes. Or was it what was the message?
So the message was your state initials fights fascism. So nice. We did New Jersey, NJ fights fascism. Oklahoma fights fascism. CT fights fascism. FL fights flash. So on and so forth. It was very profound thing to have everybody doing this coordinated effort at once. And the thing is that all these groups that are out there, there's nobody who dictates to anybody, this is what you need to do. Everybody is independent. These are all independent groups with their own independent voices. And, but what's great is that we can coordinate on occasion, come together and create a coherent message that expands across the United States. And so we'll continue to do that as we move along. And it binds us together. And that's just so much of this, right? Is that create a coherent vision of America coming together to fight against fascism. I see this as, it's a very difficult time, but I really see this as an incredible challenge for us, that this is an opportunity for us, that years from now, our grandchildren or great grandchildren will look back and say, wow, you were there. What did you do?
Yep.
And I think I want everybody who's listening to this, who's watching this, to be able to say, I stood up for our country. I did stuff. I fought, non-violently, of course, but I fought for our country, and that's what we all need to do.
That's beautifully said. You're choking me up, Dana. You're choking me up in a good way, because I think you're right. I think, I've been thinking it along those terms the whole time I've been doing what I'm doing, which is I want to be able to look back and say, I tried everything I could do. And I think that's what people want to do. They want to be like, I did everything in my power.
It makes you feel better. That's the magic of it, is it makes you feel better in this process. This is a terrible, horrific time. Like, my intake of news is like, very small. enough so that we can work together and craft messages that are really, spot on and insightful, right? But it's a difficult time. We have to persevere, and we have to be here in the moment, struggling and fighting against. But it's also, I feel better doing this constantly. I feel good, because there's nothing more I could be doing. Right. And I think that anybody who's watching this, I assure you, the more you do, the better you're going to feel. And that doesn't mean going an overpass. That could mean a number of different things. Calling your representatives, there's a whole bunch of stuff. If you go to the toolkit, we actually have a section that's called Operation Activate. And it's not the overpass idea. It's going to places where people congregate and are just putzing around, like farmers markets or street fairs. We go with poster boards, and the poster boards say something like, "Are you concerned about our country?" Or worried about fascism? Here's what you can do. And then there's a little QR code on the poster boards, which then people can go and click on it, and it'll bring them to a page that gives you a whole bunch of things that they can do. So, like, this stuff is in the toolkit, right? The toolkit of, this is how you can create and activate, Operation Activate action in your own area, right? But also, here's the sheet that links to, and there's a whole bunch of options, so everybody can do something. And that's what we all need to be doing.
I love that. And I think the idea of this state fights fascism is like, no one is against that. There are people that are against it, but most people are.
We got a few fingers.
JD Vance is a fascist, but like most people don't want fascism. Yeah. So, it's not like sometimes you go to these things and people are and it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's a message that you can get behind, because it's very, it's a low bar to say, hey, democracy's kind of like nice. Maybe we should keep it. Right. I think that's a good thing to do. So how do you go about crafting the messages? Like, how do you do that? Because you mentioned, only looking at the news briefly, because, oh boy, that must be nice to only have to log on sometimes.
Well, there's some certain areas, certain people that I trust, like Heather Cox Richardson is somebody that I trust, and she is very thoughtful in terms of how she goes about talking about what's going on. So it's not like I'm oblivious to what's going on. I assure you.
Oh, I know.
But it's important to cut through the BS. There's a lot of stuff that's being thrown at us. There's a hose of despair that's being blasted at us at every moment, so that we basically go, I just can't keep. I give up. That's what they want us to do, right? They don't want us to get out of our seats. They want us to sit there and doom scroll. And I'm saying, let's get up, let's do stuff. So in terms of, to answer your question, in terms of crafting messages, it's really fun. It's like a, as a filmmaker and as an artist, it's like poetry. Every week you have five words. You basically, if you look at it, right, you can see the message, right? See it? Okay.
Cop cut, starved kids.
Right? Straightforward, to the point. Yep. Okay. And so how do we get to the heart of it? We have more clever messages. If you look in the toolkit that's on our website, you'll see there's a whole smattering of things. We also are on Facebook and Instagram, and you can see all the stuff that we post as well. And that's at Visibility Brigade, I think, for both of those. But in terms of coming up with messages, it's fun. It's really fun. And we have like a signal group, because we're private citizens. We're not like Hegseth, right? So we have a signal group, and we bandy about and say, hey, well, we throw this against the wall and throw that against the wall, and it's like, and then people respond to it, and then basically it's a kind of a messy consensus of like, oh, okay, people are responding to this message. Let's go for it, right? And because we do it now, we basically do it like twice a week because of the crisis that we're in. And during the Biden administration, we did it once a week, but now we do it twice a week, 2 sides, so we can, if we don't have to hit the right message, we get the next time, right? And we just keep doing it on a weekly basis, rhythmically. And I think that's the important part of this, is that you get into the habit on a weekly basis of donating your time, your effort, whatever it is, to saving democracy. And if everybody did that, we'd be out of this mess.
I love that. And I think the way to think about it, like Joe DiMaggio used to say, every game that I play, I want to play as many games as possible, and I want to give it my all, because somebody in the audience, somebody in the stands may have come to see me play and will never come again, and I want to give my all for that person. And I think it's the same kind of idea with what you're doing, because not everybody is in Paramus all the time. Like on Sunday, the malls are closed. So you have to, like, it is a situation where you are going to hit new people every time you do it. And, which is, again, something that makes it sort of magical. So yeah, I think this is a wonderful thing. And
Thank you.
I wish you the best of success. My dear friend, Madhu Marin, turned me on to you, and I trust her implicitly, and she's never wrong about what she does. So, once again, before we send you off, Dana, tell everybody where we can find you and where we can, how they can get involved.
Just go to www.visibilitybrigade.com, and all the information will be there. There's a national mailing list. There's, if you happen to live in the Paramus area, you can come join our group. There's also a group directory across the country. So if wherever you live, there are new groups forming. If you don't find a group that's near you, then just go read the toolkit, make one, sign up, and now you're a part of the movement.
Awesome. I love it. Dana Glazer, wait, I gotta this control panel. Where are you? Sorry. There you are. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel better just hanging out with you for like 20 minutes. So I think this whole thing is going to be good. I
feel better hanging out with you, Greg.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But so again, visibilitybrigade.com. Dan Glazer, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was great. I knew he would be great. And I was not mistaken. I was not mistaken that it was great. So now LB has lost power. Her phone is, she can't like charge the phone and use the phone at the same time to do this. So she's out. But fortunately, we have reinforcements here at the 5-8. We have reinforcements. So I'm going to call in on the reinforcements. I'm going to call upon Lisa Graves. How are you, Lisa?
Hello. Thanks for inviting me on. Happy to help, Greg. That was such a wonderful interview with Dana. So inspiring and yeah, amazing. I'm going to get the toolkit. I got to find an overpass near me because I've seen the over in Wisconsin where I've been for a number of years. We've had this overhead light brigade starting back in the Walker administration with lights shining, creating these light signs. And this is all sort of like all next level in terms of really operationalizing it everywhere. So huge appreciation to Dana and the team over there. I assume there's a team in some form or another.
There's a team. He made very clear. Do not talk about me. Talk about the team. It's a great.
Yes. Yeah.
Really
the
good
team,
guy. Like did not want any credit. He should get credit, but he didn't want any credit. So wanted to stress that it was a team effort.
Here.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. You've been doing such an awesome job on the 5, 8 and a half. I hope people are watching this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. You and Nadine Smith are on the I don't even want to call it it's a satellite show. It's another show and it's fantastic. And you've been doing
you're
great.
So nice to say that. And
have you enjoyed it? Are you having fun?
Yeah, I am. It's been terrific to have this 5, 8 and a half and have the glass half full and be able to reach your people. Oh yes, glass half full. And reach the amazing audience that you have here. Hello, everyone. And be part of this effort, Greg, that you've really spearheaded. You are such you and Stephanie, but you I mean, I just want to say something about you here. I mean, I am just such a fan of your work, of what you write. I read everything you send me in my inbox. I hope everyone does. Love your books. I've been giving your books to friends. And just really appreciate that you've created this space and all the people who are part of this space in the audience and behind the scenes.
Thank you. And we should, I would be remiss to not say that you have a book coming out called Without Precedent about that miserable fucker, John Roberts. And I'm very excited to read it. I have a copy of it, people.
You have an embargoed set of galleys.
I have an embargoed galley. I have not read it. I'm gonna enjoy. I'm gonna maybe I'll have incense going. I don't know. It's gonna be good. I'm excited to read it. So yeah, you guys talked a lot this week. I wanted to ask your thoughts about this whole Musk Trump thing. I know it's stupid to talk about this, but it's stupid, and yet it's the president of the United States and the richest man in the world who until very recently was in cahoots with the president of the United States and was being called the shadow president in the actual media. And now they've suddenly, they've split up as if it's a SpaceX rocket, spewing debris on the ground. What do you make of all this? What are your thoughts?
Well, one of my friends, the great Mike Sachs, said this was inevitable. Another dear friend of mine, Paul, said that he called it when there was an image in Time magazine of Musk sitting behind the desk there at the White House, that was the sort of overshadowing, that Steve Bannon sort of flew too close to the sun sort of thing. But I guess I've got two things just to lead off with, and we can kind of bounce back and forth. The first is the enemy of my enemy is my enemy. I just would like to, not my friend. The enemy of my enemy is my enemy, and the related part, which is not the second point, but the sub part of that is, as much as it has a distracting component, the joy I experienced at seeing these two jerks go at each other. I cannot, I have not had Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude like this almost ever in my life. And it was really just a beautiful thing to watch, these two jerks just, attacking each other, because it sort of shows it's sort of an evidence of the chaos that they've caused in the rest of the world, for the rest of us, this sort of chaos. But the second point really was that, this is happening at a time in which Musk has wormed his way into all sorts of parts of our government with contracts and more at the moment that, in the period in which he's just recklessly slashing, programs that protect Americans and programs that help protect people around the world from disease and illness. He's been, his tentacles have been in all sorts of parts of our government, including NASA, including, now with today's decision from John Roberts' Supreme Court, the ongoing assault or access to Social Security data. And in the aftermath of just the sort of first wave of this fight between them, you have Trump saying we're going to cancel these Elon Musk contracts. That's how we'll save money. Well, A, yeah, that would be great. B, then you have Musk responding, well, I'm going to stop letting you get access to the space station. I'm, decommissioning the Dragon or something right now. And it's like,
I'm decommissioning the Dragon. Okay. That's what they call it.
The Dragon. But it's like, yeah, that's why we should not have a private dude in charge of whether we can access the space station. Similarly, why we should not have Musk trying to worm his way into access to the FAA and transfer our communication systems over to Starlink. It's exactly why we shouldn't have be giving over contracts to him for other EV vehicle sorts of things. Like we cannot be outsourced. This is precisely shows the risk of the type of outsourcing and power that has been given to Elon Musk, someone who and it wouldn't just be him. I mean, he is, in my view, unworthy of that trust. He's someone who is erratic, and as
objectively, he's unworthy of the trust.
Yeah, objectively. But in general, I don't care who the billionaire is. They should not be outsourcing core government functions to someone who has interests other than the health and welfare of the American people.
Amen. And they run it like a business. The government isn't a business. Newsflash. It's not a business. Should not be run like a business.
Sorry, I'm gonna go and then I'll jump in. No,
jump in. I'm tired of listening. I'm sick of listening to myself. Go, jump.
I mean, like, run it like a business. You know how many businesses go bankrupt in a year? Run it like a business. You have businesses that are family-owned businesses, or even closely held businesses. They're run like kingdoms. They're run by despots. They're run by dictators, people who do not, those corporations, they're not a democracy. They do not have a system in which the people who are affected by the decisions of that corporation get to vote on whether those decisions benefit them or hurt them. The last category of people we need in charge of government are business people. That rhetoric, it is so outrageous. And let me just say this. I am not alone in this. Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, the guy who talked about the
guy who invented capitalism, that Adam Smith?
That Adam Smith.
Gotcha.
That Adam Smith, in his signature treatise, The Wealth of Nations, says in there, and I'm going to paraphrase, but you can look it up, and this is going to be pretty damn close, that the class of persons you should least trust with government is the merchant class, because their interests are not yours. Even Adam Smith, way back when, was like, these people should not be running government. That is not, I mean, so, here we have example A and example A, in Trump and Musk, two people who do not have the sort of, in the judicial world of judicial nomination, we call it the temperament. They do not have the temperament to have the position of being responsible for the lives of millions of other people, because they, in part because of their success, or what you might call success in the case of Trump, but financial success for Musk, for example, part of the ability to amass this amount of wealth requires a level of narcissism that is incompatible with the type of compassion we need in a person who's going to be leading our nation and making decisions about matters of war and peace. And then I will tell, the other thing is Valerie Bertinelli, who I don't know, but who I consider to be a contemporary of mine, having watched her growing up. She has a handle in social media called Wolfie's Mom. And she said this, and I'm just going to quote it because it is spot on. She said, "Don't vote for a woman," they said. "Women are too emotional," they said. I just think Valerie Bertinelli nails it there. Right.
In this space, we love Valerie Bertinelli, by the way. We've always loved her when we were young. We love her still. She's great.
Yes. But like the idea that women were going to, like, if Kamala had won the presidency, had been sworn in earlier this year, we would not be facing any of this sort of chaos, any of this sort of massively destructive policies, ridiculous AI inspired tariffs of irrationality, like the corruption graph, the super yacht / plane, cajoled from a foreign nation, or this thing, which I would say the vernacular would be, a measuring contest, not a cat fight, a measuring contest.
Oh no, but the girls are fighting, aren't they? Is an AOC quote.
Yes,
Did you see that?
it is.
That was
it is. I saw that.
so
But
good.
it is because in some ways that puts the truth to the lie of like, oh, women would be more emotional here. Give me a break. That lie needs to be buried. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to say yes. You're right about all of that, but your point about that the people running the government shouldn't be merchant class, I think, is really interesting, because being a billionaire, you almost have to be a sociopath, and I feel like our society right now values sociopathy. It places it in a higher strata than other people, because the sociopath can run a business efficiently and fire this person and do this, and who cares who wins and who loses. And like, it goes back to, remember when Romney and Obama were running against each other and General Motors was in trouble, right? And Mitt Romney said, well, they should declare bankruptcy and they should go through the process, because that's what the process is for. And then they're going to do this and then they're going to do that, whatever. That's a perfectly rational thing to say. It's not evil to say that. That's business school stuff, right? But it doesn't take into account all of the damage, the personal damage that would be done by people losing their jobs, losing their pensions, losing all this stuff, when we can help them. And we did help them because Obama won, and we wound up making money in the process. But I feel like that kind of dichotomy of looking at the world is it's where we're at. And I feel like the people that look at it in the Romney / Musk / Peter Thiel, I don't even want to, Trump is a whole other thing. I just feel like that's dangerous and wrong, and we should just basically take all their money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the taxation rate should be substantially, dramatically higher than it is, and it should be enforced. We should have an IRS that actually spends its time focusing on billionaires not paying their fair share, and billionaire corporations, like many of the guys who are standing behind Trump on Inauguration Day, not paying their fair share. That would go a long way toward addressing both this excessive wealth that has allowed them, for pennies on the dollar, to basically try to take over our political system, because they have so much money. I remember, I think for one of these guys, one of the billionaires who wasn't there that day, but who's backed Trump, I sort of figured out, like, he injected X million dollars into a judicial campaign. But for him, because of his vast wealth compared to ordinary people's wealth, it was the equivalent of basically a bagel and coffee per week. Like that, those millions to him, for us would be like, we just bought a cup of coffee and a bagel.
Right.
Right. Because the relative value of that money, the relative value of the dollar, in essence, if you have so many more dollars, is huge. I heard someone say the other day that if you went to the beginning of the universe in scientific terms, like the multi-billion year old universe that we live in, with all the planets and all the solar systems, et cetera, if you had $1 for every day that our universe has existed since the beginning of time, as scientists would say, you would not make the top 50 list for the Forbes billionaires. Like, if you had $1 for every day that the universe has been around for billions of years, you would still not make the top 50. And most of those
Earth Day, or like different, because Earth wasn't around for that entire time. So I feel like
no,
I'm just kidding. No, that's fucking nuts. That's crazy. That's so much money, and no one should have that much money. Like the top marginal tax rate in the years of the Second World War and after the Second World War, and top marginal tax rate means anybody making, I think it was 200,000 or 400,000, some like pretty high amount of money. Anything after that was taxed at 91%, I think, during the war. And in a related story, the hugest economic boom in the history of the United States came during that period. I don't think these two things are unrelated. Call me crazy. I'm not an economist. I'm an English major, but I think that they're related. I'm just going to I'm just going to suggest.
And you are so right. And Robert Reich has analyzed these things in part of this bridge. He has this analogy with our society in terms of how those investments, that money that was, marginally not actually that beneficial to the proto billionaires, the multi-millionaires, actually helped fuel American prosperity. And along with it, worker wages, labor was stronger. Like the billionaires had not been able to deploy their cash so effectively to stomp out unions, which they haven't, but to try to stomp out unions. And so, we need a better tax policy that makes them pay their fair share, and does not leave them with so much cash around to try to buy off, or buy elections. Which, in one of this part of this spat over the last 24 hours is Elon Musk saying, you wouldn't have been president without my money, and your Republicans would not control Congress without my money. Also without the help of the U.S. Supreme Court and John Roberts, but without Musk's money. And
he didn't say money, though, did he? He didn't say money.
Yeah.
He just said,
why are we tolerating a system in which that is true, in which one man can have such disproportionate effect on a democracy, which is designed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, not of the billionaire, by the billionaire, for the billionaire.
It's the whole thing is madness. It's a madness. I don't know what to do about it. I think, that we have to seize the means of production or something. Like, these guys can't have this much money. There's no, they're not even doing anything with it. Like John D. Rockefeller, who is by far in terms of percentage of gross domestic product, is by far the wealthiest American that ever was. He makes Musk look like me. Yeah. Okay. He has so much money. He invented modern philanthropy because he was like, too many people are asking me for cash and I can't have it that way. We need to formalize this and make it into a thing so that I can vet everybody that's coming in, so I can send money out in all these directions. There was is it ringworm? It's not ringworm. It's something similar to that. He stamped that out in the South. Stamped it out. He's financed that, stamped it out. He built, I've mentioned this before on the show, in downtown Pittsburgh, there's all these beautiful buildings, right? Why? Because all of the U.S. Steel people spent the money on the buildings in the city where they live because they want. Elon Musk doesn't do that. He doesn't spend the money anywhere. He's like, let's make a rocket and go to Mars. Why? Why don't you get in an airplane and fly back to South Africa, man? We don't want you here. Did you see where Bannon said that he's an illegal immigrant? Because was really
the enemy of my enemy of my enemy. Got a third enemy in there. Still my enemy. But yes,
they're all enemies. The enemy of my enemy of my enemy. Yeah. I don't know. It's still not my friend. None of these people are my friends. None of them are being invited to my wedding. It's not happening. It's not a big. Exactly. Okay. Now, to change topic just for a second before I release you into the it's not even night there. Okay. So I want to ask you about SCOTUS, because now, as I understand, and I know nothing about this, is it the end of, when does the term end? Is it June something? Is it the end of June?
Well, it ends the end of June, but it has occasionally creeped into the very first week of July, as we saw with the 4th of July Eve counter-constitutional immunity decision that they issued last year. Yeah.
All right.
So we're about a month away.
We're a month away. So there's all these things, and it's like the Friday news drop where they wait till the last minute to drop all the ones they know will offend everybody and be horrifying. So what are they deciding now? Off the top of your head, we don't have to be exhaustive here, but what things are they deciding now that we should be kind of looking out for? What do you think might happen with that stuff?
Well, over in my day job, where I work at True North Research and Court Accountability, we have a case tracker over on the Court Accountability website that anyone could go to. I'll see if I can put the link in the channel as soon as I stop talking. But like, there is a link that sort of gives us a thumbnail sketch of most of the cases. But of course, we can't track all the cases all the time. And so, you have a situation where there's this thing called the shadow docket, where the court is issuing rulings without full briefing, and they're issuing momentous rulings. And so you have a ruling that happened today where the Supreme Court intervened yet again, meaning the Roberts Court intervened yet again to stop a lower court decision that was trying to protect our Social Security data from none other than Elon Musk. So, and there's a dissent, in that case, from one of the Democratic appointees saying, this is major substantive policy being decided without full briefing in favor, basically, of the Trump administration, or at least in favor of it in the sense of letting stuff continue until bad things continue, in essence, until there's a decision on the merits, which would then go up on appeal properly in the ordinary course of things. So what we have happening is we have heroic, courageous, fair judges in some of these lower court positions appointed by, to be fair, by Republican and Democratic appointees who have been saying to the Trump administration, no, you can't do this. You can't just, destroy the Department of Education that has been authorized by Congress and funded by Congress and budget signed into law. But or you can't just, I guess you can theoretically just put up plastic trash bags over the seal of USAID, but you can't just cancel contracts randomly, erratically, without going through any process. Like, there are processes in a functional democracy that are required by law. And in a number of these instances, not those in particular, but like in general, the lower courts have stopped, put a pause on those destructive actions, which are not just having a destructive action on ordinary people who rely on those benefits or rely on that scientific research that's underway, but also the workers who work for us, the civil servants who work for us, who are then suddenly locked out of their job, locked out of their building, can't get a paycheck, can't pay their mortgage because of the random acts of not kindness but cruelty of Elon Musk and his bros, and then backed up by two other bros, Russell Vought and Mark Paoletta over at OMB, the part within the White House that is also orchestrating this attack on our institutions. But the good news is there was a study recently that 97% of the time so far in the first 4 months, Trump has lost at the lower court level. He has been
97 is an ass kicking. Okay. Yeah.
97% ass kicked. But when the cases have gone up on these emergency appeals, the Supreme Court repeatedly, this Roberts Court has reversed the restraining orders against the administration and allowed the administration to continue to proceed, not in all instances, but in a number of instances in these destructive ways, while the issue of whether they can do so is litigated. And so we saw that, for example, in the Alien Enemies Act, where, the lower court judge, Judge Boasberg, had said, look, you have to have due process. And the court intervened and basically said, not this way. And Boasberg's decision in part was in the process of considering whether a president can unilaterally declare that a gang is a country and engage in, quote, invasion, which, by the way, no, under any ordinary recognition of law, no, you cannot. But can't reach that decision yet. That decision hasn't been, or it was actually in recent weeks by a different judge. But at the time it wasn't resolved, and so this Supreme Court, this Roberts Court, whenever Roberts has been able to, he sort of put his thumb on the scale of allowing the chaos to continue while the litigation proceeds. Now, in ordinary law, and I'm going to speak generally, not giving legal advice right now, but in ordinary law, the temporary restraining order is designed to preserve the status quo. And usually the status quo is the thing before the destructive action. The destructive action is not the status quo. But in essence, in my view, what's happened is this Roberts Court, these Republican appointees have, in many instances, but not all, flipped that standard over. So instead of preserving the status quo, meaning the way these agencies and processes have been conducted until Team Destructo got on board and started slashing things, instead the status quo is the slashing that's allowed to continue until it's forced to stop.
That's really interesting. Thank you. That's a really interesting way to think about it. I hadn't thought about it in quite that way yet. My running joke is that stare decisis is Sam Alito's drag name. That's my running joke about how this stuff works. I hope
that I talk about stare decisis in my book and try to decode it. Although I don't use it in drag, like it's not deployed in drag form, but that is funny.
It is, right? I mean, I feel like, I don't know, strip search Sammy, got to get it done. He's going to get it done. No, thank you for saying it that way. You see, you always make and I'm not good with this law stuff. I'm not, the intricacies of it.
I think you're pretty good at the policy stuff, and you are also a fabulous writer. And
thank you.
Yeah.
But the legal stuff is the fine print of it. It's hard for me to grasp, but that's an interesting way to think about it, where the status quo isn't the status quo. When is the status quo not the status quo?
Exactly.
That kind of thing. And the answer is whatever Big Balls says. That's the thing. I hope that somebody's doing a GoFundMe for Big Balls, who might lose his job now that Elon Musk is gone. I don't know how the nation will survive. We have to.
Well, and then there's that other dude. There's that other dude. There's
just the guy with the eyebrow, the terrorism guy.
22-year-old recent college grad in charge of terrorism. Like that itself should be grounds for impeachment. Like, why? No, this is unacceptable to put someone with so little actual life experience. No offense to 22-year-olds who I think are amazing. I've got nieces and nephews who are that age, but I love them.
Without even knowing your nieces and nephews, I would rather they be in this job. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying, you can love them, but they should not be in charge of our national security, period. Like, this requires more training, more experience, oversight, wisdom. Wisdom would be nice. The wisdom that comes with, assessing things over the long term and what's a good idea, what's a bad idea, what's, superficially appealing, et cetera. Yeah. So this idea that they would dare to put someone so fundamentally inexperienced in such a enormously important role, it is like reckless is an understatement. It is malpractice would be an understatement. Yeah.
It's intentional, I think. Malpractice, yes, it's malpractice. He does mow a nice lawn, I have to say. I saw some pictures, of the lawns. Really good weed whacking, and this guy does. I don't know. Maybe Osama bin Laden would agree. I'm not really sure. Wait, okay. Before I release, because I know we're running late. I don't care. I want to ask you something, because again, sometimes this law stuff confuses me. Pretend that I'm like 8 years old and explain to me what is the shadow docket, because I'm not sure I totally get it.
Okay. Well, there's a book about it, so definitely can get the book. But the non-book version.
Can I not get the book? I don't want to get the book.
The not-book version is, okay, so here's what, there's a couple things that I think a lot of people don't understand about the Supreme Court, not just you, Greg, but I think you may know this. Each year, the U.S. Supreme Court gets about 8,000 to 9,000 requests from litigants to hear their case, to hear their appeal. These can come from the state court rulings or from lower federal court rulings. They're called petitions of certiorari. That doesn't really matter. It's just a request. So this Supreme Court gets between 8,000 and 9,000 requests. Please hear my case. Please overrule the decision against me. The Roberts Court has been taking fewer and fewer cases each year from a previous period. So right now, they're only granting oral argument in 60 to 70 cases, which means they're hearing like fewer than 1% of all cases. Meaning, by hearing, I mean you get an oral argument date, you have to submit a brief, both sides submit briefs, then replies. There can be amicus briefs from outsiders saying why they think the law should be X or Y or Z. So in less than 1% of the case, there's a hearing. So that's not the shadow. Like it's public. There's a briefing.
Right. Okay.
Shadow docket is sort of the rest of the docket. And most of the time, those are just like denial of cert, deny. But what's happening is there are, one thing that's happening is there are times in which the court is overruling the court below without briefing, but in ways that are inconsistent with the case law. So basically just deciding without an oral argument, without the full briefing, without the public seeing that this is about to happen, that the law that people were operating under is no longer the law. And then in other instances, they're using this shadow docket, like with the Social Security ruling, to reverse, to claim that they're following the law, this temporary restraining order, preserving the status quo. But in fact, they're stopping they're sort of preventing rulings where the courts below actually did have briefing. The court that issued that ruling, on the Social Security case and Doge access didn't just like do it in the dark of night. Got a petition at 2 a.m. at 6 a.m. was like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that. The lower courts who've been issuing these rulings have been getting briefings and arguments and assessing the law in detail and then making a decision and then saying, no, wait, you cannot do this. And we need to assess the broader claims you're making. And in this instance, the shadow docket is the Supreme Court, meaning the faction that dominates Supreme Court, meaning Roberts, the Republican court of John Roberts, are
Leonard Leo people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Leonard Leo people are in the darkness, meaning, or in the shadows where there's a case pending, issuing rulings that have massive substantive effects without having it be in the daylight of having a full argument with the full briefing. That's what the shadow docket means.
Thank you. Thank you. That really does clear it up for me because, oh my God, these people are so awful. I hate them so much. So, okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. Again, your book is called when is it coming out? Without Precedent. When is it coming out?
It's available for pre-order now. I have a new book website called withoutprecedent.info.
Which is a very nice website. I've seen the website. It's very nice.
.info. It comes out officially in September to mark the 20th anniversary of John Roberts and to blow apart the myth that John Roberts is just a mere umpire calling balls and strikes, and to show how he's really been a player on the field. So you can get the book at withoutprecedent.info. And thank you for letting me share it with the audience here.
No, thank you so much. And again, you're on Wednesdays now with Nadine Smith on the 5/8.5, which is really just fantastic. And I hope anybody watching this show who hasn't checked out that show on Wednesday, I hope they do so. Lisa, safe travels. Thank you so much for coming in sort of at the last minute. Always great to talk to you. Enjoy. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Okay. Man, we're running so long and I don't even care. Quickly, we have one more topic because I think I forgot to set the timer for that one, which is fine because I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask her. Before I get to DJ, I want to play something that I'm going to bring somebody on just to say hi for a few minutes and then talk about the D-Day stuff. But in the escalating battle of Musk and Trump actually said that Musk should go back to Africa. And that's a callback to something that we did a long time ago, years ago on this very show. And I just want to, let's take the banner down here. I just want to, I want to play this just to refresh everybody's memory, to what we did. I don't know. This was at least 2 years ago. Absurd, you've re-platformed cat turd, yay and libs of TikTok. Elon, this is such a crock. Ari with the yacht hose, we know how the song goes. Cheered on SNL, booed off Dave Chappelle. Fire the programmers, then ask them back. Throw Twitter down the shitter like Tesla stock. Ad hoc, run fake polls, let Trump back on. Even Donald knows that you're a laughing stock. Left is turning on you in a hurry, woke my virus breathing down your neck. New York Times reporters baffled dumb for shills, Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi. Overflow, population exodus, Elton John storming off with Pope hat, serving all your own needs, my business OSD, 44 billion up in smoke, what a choke. You, pony buying, Putin lying, alt-right apartheid loser, going broke. It's not the end of the world, just of Twitter. It's not the end of the world, just of Twitter. It's not the end of the world, just of Twitter. I'm on Mastodon. We should have said Bluesky at the end. Otherwise, we're right on point with most of that, including what even Trump knows you're a loser or whatever I said. So I want to bring on the animator of this great thing and all of our great things. Donnie, how are you? Are you there?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay. what are your thoughts on all this must Trump stuff?
Wow. Yeah, it's really something that I think we all knew was going to happen. And I just didn't think it was going to be so explosive,
Yeah.
And yeah, couldn't happen to two better people in the world. I mean, does anybody ever learn their lesson that you can't treat the big boss guy badly? You have to be loyal to him. And the moment you're not, he is absolutely not loyal to you. And I know he can be unloyal at any point, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, they never learn, these kids.
It's true, they never learn. Now, I want to give you credit because you've done the animation on all of these things since the beginning of the show. And it's wonderful work that you do, and it brings me such joy every week to see you do it. So I want to acknowledge it while you're on the show. And but what happens with those is it's brilliant. It's always like, I can't wait to see what Donnie comes up with, and then I laugh so hard at this one in particular. Chocolate.
Yeah. I wish my voice was that deep, but
it was so good. It was
Joey,
so good.
Joey Tacos. I have to scream in my car for a little bit just to get my voice warmed up. And it's not out of frustration or anything. It's just to get my vocal cords like roughed up. It's like taking sandpaper to your throat, and it works. It gets your voice a little bit deeper.
If you scream enough,
but I still have to take it into another software.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called. It's like it's just, you're just messing up your vocal cords just enough. I know I'm probably doing major damage, but
okay. It's like the scream singing.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's the same idea. It's the same idea. So, but now,
totally.
The way that we do these things is I usually do it, then I send it to you, and it's this thing that's it's a collaborative thing. But I feel like you don't have the opportunity to say stuff that might be on your mind. So before we get to the topic, which is D-Day, I want to ask you if there's anything on your mind that you want to spill to the audience here. People are curious what you're thinking. Anything at all.
Wow. I'm sorry. I've been, this time 4 years ago or 8 years ago, I was in the thick of it with all the people online. I was terminally online. I was nonstop making memes. All of a sudden, I figured out that I could animate and that I had access to software that I could do this stuff and kind of have fun with it and gain some sort of a following with it, just by replying to people like an idiot. And it caught on, and I got better at what I was doing and having fun. And now sorry, I'm not there right now. Here, where you caught me when you asked me if I could join, I was working on my deck.
Oh, there's a lot of deck going on in the 5.8 universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So it's been almost not a year-long process, but anyway, this has been my life for the last 7 months or so, just me. But so it's that, and then crazy stuff going on in my real life job. But yeah, I apologize. I don't have much on my mind other than it's all stupid, and I feel like I'm really doing a disservice to your previous, not Lisa, but to Dana. Is that his name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dana.
Yeah. To the first guest, because I should be doing something. I am doing something, but it's not anything beneficial to anybody.
No,
I do stuff for you every week or every other week or whatever, and that's very little amount of my time. You'd be surprised.
It goes out and it matters. And you were blocked by Trump on Twitter. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, back in
Not many people
2018.
can make that claim. Not many people can make that claim. I don't have that.
Yeah.
My best block is, I guess, WikiLeaks, I think, and Jack Posobiec.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you see the Jack Posobiec reaction? By the way,
yeah. So no, well, was it something about high level dudes?
Here it is.
Yeah. High agency males.
Here we are on the 5-8. We're just two high agency males, Donnie. We're talking it out. This right here.
No, they're going at it. Two high agency males going at it.
Are we going at it? Are we going at it?
No, not you and me, but he's talking. Yeah, phallocentric and wow.
They're going at it. Guy knows
what a
what
freaking weirdo.
This guy blocked me so fucking early. I don't even remember what I don't even
because you were onto him right away.
I'm
sure you were onto him right away. He's such a fucking phony.
Him, the Trump sons. Yeah, no, he's.
Yeah.
Oh, Belarus. I don't know. Did you see? The other thing is, I feel like somebody wrote this, but I thought it also like the Musk Trump thing was very similar to the Putin Prigozhin thing.
Oh my, so that's right. So there needs to be a flight tracker.
Yeah, he's going to go to Belarus now.
But
Trump's
he's already.
Musk's going to go to Belarus.
Yeah, but Musk has already gone after the Twitter dude that was tracking Musk's plane.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that won't be able to. That won't be very easy, but I'm sure people still do it. But yeah, he needs to go to Belarus. He needs to fly. There needs to be. He needs to have some yelling on his tweets, and he has to have like video of himself yelling at Trump obscenities, and like Prigozhin kind of did. I don't know what he was saying, but it seemed pretty violent.
I don't know. I'm reading a really good book about Prigozhin now, by the way, called Putin Sledgehammer, which really, really good stuff. So we get more on that later. Anyway, right. we're running late. So I want to Putin Sledgehammer because the sledgehammer is like that in the way that the chainsaw is the Musk symbol. The sledgehammer is very much the symbol of the Wagner Group or Wagner Group, however the fuck they say. I don't know. I don't speak the language.
Oh yeah.
It is the symbol.
We'll just be Wagner Group.
Yeah, Wagner. Yeah. I want to, before we go, I want to talk about, and I don't like to talk about. So thank you for coming on because I don't like to be on here by myself because it's lonely. Today's D-Day, and I feel like it's important. Oh wait, I should put the banner back up so that we can remember. Today's D-Day, which is the day that the Allied forces, who were not winning the war at this point, this is June 6, 44. It's not. We don't know what's going to happen, right? And it's still very much in the balance. And we need to invade the mainland of Europe because Nazis have control of all of mainland Europe, of the continent, basically. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to go in there and we need to get a foothold so we can send in troops and material and, turn the tide of the war. So they come up with this plan, Operation Neptune, which is part of Operation Overlord, the larger thing, which is to do an amphibious landing at Normandy with regiments that are American and British and Canadian. We want to shout out to our Canadian friends here that this was a Canadian effort as well. And there was a lot that went into this. They did a lot of counterintelligence fuckery, but good guy fuckery, trying to convince the Germans that A, the landing was going to be at Calais, and B, it was going to be like in 2 weeks. It wasn't going to be on the 6th or the 5th or whatever. It was going to be later on. And the counterintelligence was so effective that the Rommel, Edwin Rommel, who is the leader of the Atlantic Wall, whatever, the defense of the Atlantic, was like in Berlin at a birthday party or something while this was going on. So if you ever, by the way, as an aside, if you ever feel like you fucked up your job, this guy fucked up his job so bad. And His boss was literally Hitler. So, feel better about the fucking.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about perspective.
Yeah. We have to have perspective with it. So Eisenhower is in charge. He is the commander of all of this stuff, of the entire Allied forces, right? And he says, we're going to do this thing. And it was going to be on June 5th. And the weather was shitty on June 5th. And then June 6th rolls around and the weather's still kind of iffy. So he consults with meteorologists. Probably he consults with God. And he's like, all right, fuck it. Let's just do it, And and he says to his driver, oh God, I hope I made the right decision. Because he's not sure, because the weather might fuck it up. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I wrote about this and I want to read now, and I apologize. But so here's the thing.
No, please.
D-Day is hardly a sure thing, right? Eisenhower, as we discussed, he's worried about the weather. He's worried that the Nazis would get tipped off about the invasion, because up to that point, it's like a surprise party, right? Somebody fucks up the surprise party and it's fucked. And anybody can fuck it up. He's worried about that.
And not somebody's hurt feelings. It's death.
Right. No, it's like death. Yeah. He's worried that this is a huge amphibious operation. He's worried it won't work. Yep. And he's a human with empathy, and he's talking to all of the troops who are all these basically 18, 19-year-olds, and he knows that a lot of them are going to die. And and he feels for that, and he knows that that's the thing. So the night before the invasion, he writes by hand a note that he would dispatch in the event of failure. And what he writes is this: our landings in the Cherbourg-Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I've withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based upon the best information available. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone. And he underlines twice, mine alone. Right?
Yeah. Where's that guy today?
Great leaders have great character, and he accepted that it might be a bust. He planned for it. He took full responsibility. It's mine alone. And you're right. Where is it today? There's no passive voice in the sentence. There's no weaselly stuff. He's not blaming crooked Hillary or George Soros or Biden's economy or China or whatever the fuck, right? He demonstrated honor, and that is a quality that's foreign to Trump. It's foreign to Elon Musk or J.D. Vance or any of the people in the cabinet. Grifters have no honor. Sycophants have no honor. Fascists have no honor. And this is why I feel buoyed today, right? Like the original Nazis 81 years ago, they will be defeated here in the United States. So that's what I wanted to say. And
that's wonderful.
I guess, what I'm trying to say is, how does LB? You have to do the LB ending of the show, Donnie.
We're gonna get through this.